Hey, so Deltarune Chapters 3 and 4 are dropping any day now, I know that, but I wanted to talk about Chapter 1 and 2 on their own as they are, as we've known the game that is Deltarune before the new chapters drop. For anyone that doesn't know, or anyone that's watching this after the release of future chapters, Deltarune, specifically the Chapter 1 and 2 demo, is a small slice of a game by Toby Fox that's the parallel story / sequel to Undertale. It's not a sequel in a narrative sense, I think, but rather the game expects you to be familiar with Undertale's story, characters, themes, gameplay, etc., etc. Chapter 1 released in 2018 and Chapter 2 released in 2021. Both were pretty important years for me, and I'll get into that in a bit. But with Chapters 3 and 4 looming on the horizon, it's kind of our last chance to look at this game as it is, which I think is kind of neat. The long gaps between chapters have become part of the whole experience, which makes this game truly one of a kind. I've been following this game since day one, and it means a lot to me. This is a fleeting moment, one of the last times we'll ever talk about Deltarune as a 2-chapter game. After June 5th, or 4th if you live in North America, it won't exist like this again, so let's talk about it. I played Undertale for the first time in December of 2016. A friend of mine recommended it to me and I fell in love instantly. At the time, I was going through a pretty big shakeup in my personal life, feeling alone, but from the quality of the writing and execution of game mechanics, I quickly grew attached to the game, its characters, and its themes. One of Undertale's big selling points was the idea that it was an RPG where nobody had to die. I thought that was such a neat concept, and so my first run was a pacifist run. And I loved it so much that every single year I sit myself down and do another. The game was a huge smash hit with people all over the world falling in love. Sans got into Smash, kinda. A copy of Undertale was given to the late Pope Francis, and then a few years later, Megalovania was played for him. The game was a cultural phenomenon. And perhaps quite strangely, on Halloween night of 2018, Toby Fox, or was it someone else, dropped a mysterious program called survey_program.exe that ended up being Chapter 1 of a whole new game. And much like Undertale, I fell in love instantly. So quickly, as a bit of a disclaimer, I've only played the pacifist run of Deltarune. I know there's a weird route, I know about Snowgrave, and I've read or watched a lot about it, but I feel like other people are way better at covering it. Maybe one day, I don't know. Maybe when all the chapters are out. Okay, moving on. Deltarune is so fucking good. The world, the characters, the story, the little moments, learning something new each playthrough, like Susie kicking over these jars in Queen's Mansion is something I only just found out about while I was recording gameplay for this video. The battles, the flavor text, the writing, baby, this is how you do a video game. And it's not even done yet. Toby Fox, you sly dog, how do you do it? Deltarune Chapter 1 opens with you making a character, giving them a personality, naming them, and then being told that you don't have a choice in this world. Toby Fox is known for his inspirational stuff, yeah. You play as Chris, a person dressed in green, which I'm sure is just a coincidence, that lives with Toriel, who acts as their mother, which I'm sure is just a coincidence, and you begin the game by going to school. It's just like real life. Your classmates are a mix between characters we've seen before in Undertale and characters new to the world of Deltarune. Two to keep an eye on are Noelle and Birdley, the smartest kids in the class whose combined brain power really sends a chill down your spine. Alphys, who we know as the royal scientist from Undertale that might have a thing for Undyne, is your teacher. And thus far in this universe, there is no unethical experimentation going on, which is, like, probably a good thing as a school teacher. You're tasked with a group project. At this stage, we don't know what it's about. You can't find a partner until a mysterious purple monster girl walks in. Susie, who we may have heard about in Undertale, but I'm sure that's just a coincidence. She becomes your partner, she threatens to kill you, and then you go with her to the supply closet to get some chalk. You know, normal high school things. It's just like real life. That door turns out to be a portal of sorts to another world that is dark. Darker, yet darker. See what I did there? It's called a dark world, not the dark world, a dark world. A dark world in Deltarune is, again, as far as only Chapter 1 and 2 are concerned, a transformation and personification of the items, objects, and contents of the location and hometown where the world is created. You meet a prince named Ralsei whose name is an anagram of Azrael, just like Deltarune is an anagram of Undertale, but I'm sure that is just a coincidence! I'm losing my fucking mind, man. Welcome to the Kingdom of Darkness. We hear a legend, we're told we're part of some sort of prophecy, and we are tasked with sealing dark fountains, something only we, as Chris can do. Through a big old door, and we are off on our adventure through the Cart Kingdom! Chapter 1 of Deltarune released the night before my final high school exam started. It was one of the most important periods of my early life, arguably, and that night, I learned what my priorities were. I went into this as an Undertale fan. I'd played the game, I'd listened to the OST a gazillion times, I checked out the community. I never really got too into things like AUs or fan games, but I did know about Gaster and fun values and all the hidden secrety bits. And I have a soft spot for Undertale the musical by Man on the Internet. The game was special to me. It's up there as one of my all-time favorite pieces of media. The first thing that stuck out to me about Deltarune though was how similar yet different it was. Okay, for example, the battle system. Undertale's battles are played out as if the enemy is in front of you, and in Deltarune they're to the side. Plus, your overworld sprites are the ones in the fight, you have more than one party member, and you can use magic. It's an evolution of the style that allows for more depth and strategy than before. But the core fight act spare system remains the same. Don't fix what ain't broke, or something like that. You know? Speaking of, this game is jam-packed with heart. In Chapter 1 alone, you have characters like Lancer and Rules Card who are just oozing with charm and absurdist humor directly next to characters like Susie, who has a whole arc and evolves in the span of just one short chapter. You have mysteries that kept the fandom guessing for years. Like, what's up with Sans? What's up with these flowers? Who's really in control of Chris? Is it a good thing that we can seal the fountains? Is sealing the fountains something Chris can do? Or actually something that we, as the player, can do? Is there really only going to be one ending? And what is the throne of the gods but a monument to man's own hubris? And for a few years, that's the way it was. We had all these questions, but we just didn't know. Outside of a few updates shared by Toby, it was just Chapter 1, the fans, and deafening silence. And that is what makes Deltarune so special. More on that in a bit. Flash forward a few years. It's 2021. I'm going through uni. I'm about to start work on this big project that's a huge part of my degree, and I tune into this live stream that's titled Undertale's 6th Anniversary, so we play Deltarune Chapter 1 for some reason live. Deltarune Chapter 2, believe it or not, continues the story from Chapter 1, picking up the following day. We get a little bit more on what's happening in the light world and a little bit more on Ralsei's dark world, but the meat and potatoes of the chapter come in the form of the town library's computer lab. Someone has created a dark world in there. Not only unleashing a new dark fountain, but also trapping two of your classmates inside, Noelle and Birdley. Ralsei joins us somehow, and together the three of you head into a world inspired by the internet. Chapter 1 had a world based on board games, card games, and other things that you'd find in an unused classroom. But if, like me, you had unrestricted internet access in some formative years, you'll absolutely fall in love with the dark world of Chapter 2. You meet the ruler of the world, Queen, otherwise known as serial number Q5U4EX7YY2E9N, quite early. She talks about replacing Noelle's face with a robot one and making her a willing peon, which we later find out means someone who will open up a new dark world. This is important. We learn about how dark worlds are made and learn more about the concept of the knight. There's a smidge of info in Chapter 1, but we learn that the knight is capable of creating dark fountains by coursing their will into their blade through the power of determination. I wonder if that's a coincidence, and striking it into the ground. We meet Spamton, a quirky little guy based on spam emails that has no further lore relevance beyond being a Tumblr sexy man. I'm just kidding. We don't actually know everything about him yet. There's a lot we do know, including that he's a pretty fundamental character in the meta/transmedia parts of the game. He's the second of presumably 7 secret bosses after Jevil, but there's still a lot of unanswered questions. Back to Chapter 2 on its own for now though, we learn more about Noelle, who is very important in the chapter's weird route, but also we learn about her past, and through both this and some supplementary stuff on the Deltarune website, learn about her missing sister Des, and also Birdley is there. Queen delivers some all-timer lines. We beat her up with the power of friendship and the optional power of
the original Star Walker.
Seal the fountain, get more lore about the greater story from Shawm, and head home after a long, busy day. Oh, and Chris rips out their soul and opens a dark fountain inside their house. You know, it's normal high schooler things. It's just like real life. So we've got Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and that's it. Over the years, we'd slowly learn more about the development and contents of future chapters, to the point where a few months before making this video, Toby Fox shared on his Blue Sky that Chapters 3 and 4 were practically complete, which was like super cool. And then in the big Nintendo Switch 2 Showcase Direct, we learned they were dropping on launch day, which is sick, awesome, amazing. So to recap, Deltarune Chapters have always released while some crazy life events have been happening for me. Chapter 1 dropped when I was doing my final high school exams. Chapter 2 dropped when I was knee-deep in one of the biggest projects of my bachelor's degree. Chapters 3 and 4 come out on the same day as the Nintendo Switch 2, which is up there with my uni graduation for one of the all-time most important days of my life. And while that's cool, and I absolutely will be there on June 5th, one of the biggest things that appeals to me about Deltarune is the stretches of time between chapters. I know waiting can be hard. It sucks, I get it, but I don't think this game would be the same without it. The long gaps between chapters, I think, give this game the identity that it has beyond just the next Toby Fox game. The staggered release allows for the community to rally together and truly allow the game to take on a life of its own. First thing, theories. There's a lot, and people are like super diehard on some of them one way or another. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're stuck waiting, it becomes easier and easier to start believing that the Jockington Knight theory could be canon. I don't believe that, by the way. But also the fan creations, fan art, fan games, fan fiction, and also I mentioned Undertale, the musical, at the start of the video. Sure enough, they did the same for Deltarune. It may be a guilty pleasure of mine, it may not. Being part of this community, even if it's just, you know, lurking and observing, is special. When the next chapters drop, we won't talk about or know Deltarune like this, like it is right now as a 2-chapter game anymore. There'll be a whole new wave of discussions, theories, fan creations, brain rot, I guess, based on the new characters we meet and information we learn in chapters 3 and 4. If you like Undertale or Deltarune and you haven't participated in the community between chapter releases, I implore you to give it a shot while you can. Who knows what the discourse around this game will be like after chapter 3, 4, hell, even after 5, 6, or 7. It's really cool, actually. Makes me want to delve into the lore that we have right now even more. I genuinely love stuff like this. I eat it up. But I want to turn the tables for a sec. So, I actually have a few little questions of my own. A lot of them are the questions I expect the game to answer going forward, and I want to revisit this once the game's done and see if any of them, you know, were answered. But I know some of you watching this are going to be much deeper into the wider narrative and lore of Deltarune, so tell me if you have any ideas / theories about these. Okay, question 1. Where did the legend come from? And kind of on that, why do the Dark Worlds have backstory and lore before we enter it as Chris? Is it a case of last Thursdayism? Question B. No. 2? 1A? What relation does the legend have to Gaster? Why was a portion of it in Wingdings in him.png on the Deltarune website in 2016? Question 3? 2? Who is Ralsei? Like, genuinely, why does he know things? What is he saying to Chris when we turn our attention to Susie? Next thing, bunker? Question mark? Dark World? Question mark? Kind of on that, both Dark Worlds up to now have had double doors blocking them. Is that necessarily something that can help us understand what rooms can be a Dark World versus what can't? Like a foreshadowing sort of thing? The only counterpoint to that I can think of off the top of my head is the Dreamer Residence doesn't have double doors, and Chris creates a Dark Fountain at the end of chapter 2, so no? Maybe? What are the eggs for? Is the unused dialogue in the files Des? Is the song that Onion Sun can hear related to Des? Or the bunker, maybe? Who is Mike? Who is the man? Who is the knight? Who is Chris, even? Who are the 3 figures in Sansa's picture in the glam-altered version of the lab that you can access in the pacifist ending of Undertale? The words I'm saying make sense. And where is Papyrus? I need to go down a rabbit hole. Excuse me for a second. Okay, I have just spent like 8 consecutive hours waist deep in the wikis, binging a bunch of lore videos, theory videos, going over all the shit, the Spamton sweepstakes and the new sweepstakes stuff that only just got dropped a couple weeks back, and looking over the new stuff from the newsletters, going back into Undertale and reading up on things like the alarm clock dialogue, listening to a bunch of non-Undertale or Deltarune Toby Fox songs like Megalo Strike Back and Penumbra Phantasm, and looking into stuff like Bluey and Mike and Woody Theory and Friend Inside Me. Those are 2 different things, I think. Noelle gets hit by a car theory, a house like carpet, and, well, I only have one thing to say. Deltarune tomorrow.